Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and Happy New Year, at least if you're watching when that video comes out, or rather in that time frame. Anyway, I hope you had a few great holiday, a little bit of rest, never hurts, right? And yep, it starts again. Another tip when it comes to Nuxt, and today we'll have a look how you might misuse useFetch and what consequences it has. Let's go. useFetch is a very powerful composable and it's pretty amazing what you can do with it. But there are also a few misconceptions that we want to tackle and see how you can avoid them. For that, once again, I built a very simple demo application with a login form to show you the problem and how you can avoid it. Let's have a look. This application just consists of an app.view and also a custom API endpoint for some fake login API. The idea is that we have some username and password saved that will then be used as a body and be sent to the login API when the form has been submitted. And then after everything went through, we can do some things. So everything after here is like some custom logic. And also here we have an onResponse function that just increases the call count here to see how many calls to the API we're actually doing. And then in the template part, we just have a login, the form that will actually call the unsubmit function and also prevents the default action. Then we have some inputs with the data 1p ignore, so my password manager won't bother, a login button to submit it, and just some debugging here. And maybe you've seen already what is a bit strange here, but well, if not, I will show you a little bit. First, let's have a look at how it works. So here we are, the simple login form, and we can try with the password. But first, I'll open the network tools, increase a little bit, and we'll try with maybe password. We'll push login, and we see post request. Let's see, didn't work, too bad. Wrong username, password, that's unfortunate. Did it work false? And amount of calls 1. So let's just try Hunter 2. Wait, whoa.
Whoa, what?
Wait. This was a bit much. 9, 10, 11. The API calls are increasing now every time I write something, and we also see it in the network tab. Like all these requests to the login API. Did I break it? Is Nuxt broken? Did we mess up something? Yeah, we did. We messed up something, but Nuxt is not broken. No worries. This is what happens when you use useFetch not as a composable, but just as a data fetching function. Let's check out the code and see where the mistake is and how to fix that. Here in line 14, we use the mighty useFetch composable. And in a previous video, I've already talked about what a composable is and what a function is. If you haven't watched that, please have a look at it. It's really worth it. As usual, on top right corner, I have linked it and also in the description. And after the video, or maybe even before, you know that composables should only be called in lifecycle hooks, which is very unusual, but more commonly other composables, or in the script setup block or function, like in the setup function or script setup block, but on the top level. And this is not happening here, right? We don't call this on the top level. So this is the first problem. And the second problem is we don't really need here composable. We just use useFetch because it's a bit convenient to fetch data. But what we eventually want to use, we just want to fetch data. We don't need error to be reactive. We don't need like data to be a ref and so on. And most importantly, useFetch is clever. We pass in the body composed out of the username and password, right? And useFetch can be used for an amazing multitude of things, like, oh, if a query parameter change, like if a page number change, please refetch data automatically, because useFetch will watch all the reactive values given to it through like body, params, query, and so on. So this computed body here that we pass along is amazing, but in our case, we don't really want that it watches that at all. So using useFetch in some kind of event handler on submit function, so everything that's not really top level in the script setup block is a problem. And how to solve this? Pretty easy. We just use $fetch, right? So here we say, okay, let's just get the data out of here. And we could even say, let's wrap a try catch around that and say, okay, if that worked, all fine. Otherwise, if there is an error, we can catch it and do something with it, like log it or deal with it otherwise. And that would be the correct way of dealing with it. Because now we don't need a composable in here. We just want to fetch data. That's right. $fetch will not do any magic behind it. You can't like do refresh calls or anything. This is just useFetch from the un.js repository, the package behind, that will just do a call. And it's a wrapper around the fetch API, which is quite convenient. You still can use onResponse. You still can set a method. The rest will stay the same because useFetch is a composable wrapped around $fetch. And with that, things will just work out. Let's jump back to the browser and have a look. So in here, I try with password again, and we see the call goes in, doesn't work, and now it takes in one call. All easy. And if I get the right password, well, let's see. Nope. Nope. Nope, it's fine. The amount of calls will only happen when I actually push the button or when I hit the enter key. So this is how it should work. And once again, misusing these composables is very common, but it can cause severe issues. If we go back one more time and change the code back to the useFetch option there, and like let's clear the network tab, and I show you something else. Let's give a wrong password in, and now we have 2 calls, right? Like, sorry, 1 call per tab, 1 call when I change it. If I submit it again, now we have 2 calls when changing it, and again, and now a crazy amount of calls. Just by typing 1 letter, I get another 5 calls. Why? Well, because useFetch will create a new composable instance that will watch the reactive information, like the body that we had before, when you called it on submit. And it's very difficult to actually clean that up again. So that's also another reason why I don't want to call composables in these functions, because you can't really clean them up again. And some of them might not work because they need some context around it, and so on and so on. But with useFetch, you might think, okay, but it's super helpful. Why can't I use it when I want to fetch data? And the answer is, you can. There is a pattern that allows you doing that. I personally don't use it that much, but in some scenarios, it can come in really, really handy. Let's have a look. Going back to the useFetch code here, what we can do is we can take this code out of the onSubmit function. We can move it up, like here. And from here, we can say, okay, you know what? Let's move that away too. Let's get the data out here as well. And in here, we say immediate false. So we say, please, useFetch should not be executed straight away. And another thing we can do is we can set watch to false here. So all these things, like the body in this case, they won't be watched. So it won't be triggered automatically again. And now what we can expose is an execute function, also known as a refresh function. These are both exactly the same, just named differently. And we can call this execute function down here. Await execute. And then we can check for the error.value and continue. And you might now wonder, okay, why is this fine then? Why can't we just like leave it in there? Because we still call a function, right? And the difference is that the function returned by useFetch, that execute function here, this is not a composable. This is just return value of a composable, which is a function. And that's totally fine to use. It's actually encouraged, right? It's very common to say, oh, I got some data. Maybe I want some new ones. So I have some kind of execute or refresh function. Once again, it's exactly the same, just named differently for semantic reasons. And yeah, just call that here. So that shouldn't be a problem. And with that approach, you could still use all the benefits of useFetch, like also appending, state, and so on, while keeping all together. Once again, I would not always suggest that approach. It depends a lot on your structure and architecture. But these are 2 ways to deal with. The easiest way is, once again, just rely on $fetch, especially if you want to submit a post request. That's also the rule of thumb suggestion I have. So what I would recommend is, if you have some kind of button click, form, anything else than a GET request, use $fetch or a wrapper around $fetch if you need to send some authorization headers, bearer tokens, and so on, right? If you have data that's necessary for server-side rendering, use useFetch, of course, no problem. And you have no issues refreshing it. But very importantly, make sure that you never ever call useFetch in a function like an event handler, a submit function, and so on. You only want to call it top level in your script setup log. That's all for today. I hope that helped, and that might help you fix some weird ideas why calls are happening twice, thrice, and so on. Did you ever did a similar thing? Let me know, and if you have any questions, as usual, drop them down below in the comments. That's it for today. I hope to see you next week again. Also have a look around the channel, check the other videos if you haven't seen them, and happy hacking. See you soon. Bye bye.